Wells Fargo is one of America's oldest and most trusted banks, founded in 1852. Known for its stagecoach logo, the bank built a reputation for reliability over the years. By the early 2000s, Wells Fargo had become a giant in the banking industry, with thousands of branches and millions of loyal customers. But what nobody knew was that one of the most shocking banking scandals of recent times was stewing behind closed doors. This is the story of the Wells Fargo account fraud scandal, a story of corporate greed, systematic cheating, and a huge breach of trust left millions of customers feeling betrayed. Chapter 1. Background. Back in the chaos of the 1852 gold rush, Wells Fargo stepped into the spotlight. They were the ones to trust when it came to getting precious cargo across the rough and tumble of the American West. Gold, documents, you name it. Then, in 1905, they decided to up their game and become a full-fledged bank. And let me tell you, they meant business. Through thick and thin, they kept on growing. Banking was just the beginning. They spread their wings into express delivery and savvy investments. But it was their strategic moves that really made waves. They gained a reputation as being the go-to bank that you could trust and rely on. However, behind this trusted image, a toxic culture was brewing. The bank pressured its employees to meet unrealistic sales targets through aggressive sales tactics. This environment set the stage for the scandal that would soon erupt. Wells Fargo's aggressive cross-selling strategy aimed to sell as many products as possible to each customer, which led to the fraudulent activities that would later come to light. Chapter 2. Unfolding the scandal. The Wells Fargo account fraud scandal exploded into public view in 2016. It was revealed that, between 2002 and 2016, Wells Fargo employees had secretly created millions of unauthorized bank accounts and credit card applications. This massive fraud was driven by unrealistic sales goals, where employees felt intense pressure to perform. The fraudulent activity was first uncovered through whistleblower reports. Brave former employees came forward, risking their careers to expose the truth. One whistleblower, Julie Tishkoff, reported that she was fired for refusing to open fake accounts. Tishkoff's revelations, along with those of others, led to internal investigations that uncovered the shocking extent of the fraud. Over 2 million unauthorized accounts had been opened. This revelation sent shockwaves through the banking industry and the public, leading to immediate outrage and calls for accountability. Chapter 3. Mechanics of the fraud. To understand how such a massive fraud could happen, we need to look at the mechanics behind it. Employees were under relentless pressure to meet high sales quotas. Failure to meet these targets usually resulted in employees being demoted or even just straight up fired. To avoid this, employees resorted to creating fake accounts. They used customers' personal information to open new accounts without their knowledge. Fake email addresses were generated to enroll customers in online banking services they never requested. This was all part of Wells Fargo's cross-selling strategy, which aimed to increase the number of products each customer used. Employees were even known to transfer funds from existing customer accounts to the new fake ones to make them appear legitimate. This fraudulent activity was especially present across the bank's retail branches. Managers, aware of these practices, turned a blind eye or even encouraged behavior like this to meet their own targets. This toxic culture was in every level of the retail banking division, creating an environment where you were basically rewarded for unethical behavior. Chapter 4. Impact and consequences. The impact of the fraud on customers was devastating. Many customers only discovered that they were victims of fraud when they started receiving mysterious fees or saw a drop in their credit scores. One particularly heart-wrenching story is Joe Montana's, a retired veteran who found several unauthorized accounts in his name. This completely tanked his credit score, ruined his financial life, and gave him so much stress and anxiety. Regulatory bodies launched extensive investigations into Wells Fargo's practices. The Department of Justice and the Securities and Exchange Commission found that Wells Fargo violated numerous laws, including identity theft and the creation of false bank records. In February 2020, Wells Fargo agreed to pay $3 billion to settle its criminal and civil liabilities. This included a deferred prosecution agreement with the Department of Justice, which required the bank to comply with certain conditions to avoid further prosecution. The SEC also imposed additional penalties. The investigations revealed that top executives were aware of the fraudulent activities. Former CEO John Stumpf and former head of retail banking Carrie Tolstedt were singled out for their roles in perpetuating the toxic sales culture. Stumpf resigned in October 2016, and Tolstedt faced significant clawbacks and penalties. Chapter 5. Internal Reforms and Reactions. In the wake of the scandal, Wells Fargo decided to make a lot of internal changes. The bank fired over 5,300 employees involved in the fraud and eliminated sales quotas for retail bankers. John Stumpf, the CEO at the time, resigned amid the fallout, and Tim Sloan, the COO, stepped in as his replacement. Sloan highlighted the need for cultural and structural changes so that they could earn people's trust back. Wells Fargo invested heavily in improving its oversight and control mechanisms. The bank committed $50 million to improve its monitoring systems and prevent future misconduct. Also, the board of directors clawed back millions of dollars in compensation from Stumpf and Tolstedt, showing that they were holding the right people accountable. Despite these efforts, the road to rebuilding trust has been long and challenging. The scandal left a lasting stain on Wells Fargo's reputation, and the bank has faced ongoing scrutiny from regulators and the public. Chapter 6. Public Reaction. The public reaction to the scandal was one of outrage and betrayal. Customers who had placed their trust in Wells Fargo felt deeply deceived. The scandal dominated headlines, with extensive media coverage highlighting the scale of the fraud and the bank's failures. Public outcry led to a significant loss of trust, with many customers closing their accounts and moving to other banks. One particularly powerful story is David Dayen's, an investigative journalist who documented his personal experience with Wells Fargo. Dayen discovered multiple unauthorized accounts in his name, leading to months of frustration as he tried to resolve the issue. His story resonated with many others who had faced similar struggles, amplifying the call for greater accountability and transparency in the banking industry. The scandal also sparked widespread discussions about the broader issues within the banking industry. It raised important questions about corporate governance, ethical practices, and the pressures faced by employees in high-stakes environments. The public demanded greater accountability and transparency from financial institutions, leading to calls for regulatory reforms to protect consumers. Chapter 7. Lessons Learned. The Wells Fargo account fraud scandal shows how bad things can get when a company's culture is all about hitting impossible goals and using aggressive sales tactics. It's a warning for all banks and businesses. We need strong oversight, good leaders, and a commitment to doing the right thing. To stop this kind of mess from happening again, banks and businesses need to focus on building trust with customers, being open about what they're doing, and keeping a close eye on things. Everyone also needs to make sure they're following the rules, and regulators are there to make sure that happens and to protect people from companies that don't play fair. What do you think about the Wells Fargo account fraud scandal? Let me know in the comments section below. And if you found this video interesting, I'd really appreciate it if you like, comment, and subscribe for more videos like this.